legendary Cadwell Park circuit in Lincolnshire is the venue for rounds 4, 5 and 6 of the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup of 2017. Entering this second meeting of the year, things could not be closer in the championship race, with Jack Harding just a solitary point clear of Rob Boston at the top of the table. Luke Herbert is third, but Tom Roach and Liam Murphy are still very much in touch as well. Well, we've got 6 races coming your way, 3 A races and 3 B races as well, so we're going to crack straight on with our first A race of the weekend, and here's how they line up. Rob Boston and Luke Herbert make up the front row of the grid, with Jack Harding and Tom Roach on row 2, Brian Chandler and Rick Styron on the third row, James Blake Baldwin, the reigning champ, down on row 4 alongside Ben Short. Mike Comber and Steve Roberts round out the top 10. Watch out for Johnny Greensmith and Liam Murphy to move forward from the 6th row, then it's Richard Wickland, Carl Garnett, Nick Dunn and Gary Townsend on the 8th row. Sam Tatler and Richard Breland are next up, ahead of Simon Fleet and Colin Bysouth, Aidan Hills, Nathan Bell, Simon Orange and Jake Bailey on row 12. We've got 28 cars on the grid. The back 2 rows are held by Alec Livesley, Steve Dolman, Alex King and David Henderson. Well, Cadwell Park, a real driver's circuit, one of the most challenging circuits in the country. It's narrow, it's tight, it's twisty, it's technical, it's tough to pass around here, but in Mazda MX-5 SuperCup you can almost always guarantee exciting racing. Rob Boston then and Luke Herbert share the front row of the grid. The red lights go out, away we go. Race 1A is good to go here at Cadwell Park. It looks like a good start from the pole sitter Rob Boston. The white machine moves ahead on run towards the first corner for the first time. Luke Herbert slots through the second position, it's side by side the third. I think that's Jack Harding that's come through in the third position by the look of it. Number 43 car, yes it is. Then Tom Roach in 4th, and then 5th position appears to be Brian Chandler, and off wide onto the grass further back, I'm afraid. We've got a couple of cars. Steve Roberts there is the black number 56 car who has been sent out over the grass, and also involved with him there, car number 99, Rick Styron. So 2 potential front runners in trouble right from the get-go. So up at the end of the Park Straight we go, and through Chris Curve towards the gooseneck. This is a really tight and technical part of the circuit, very high speed as well. We plunge downhill, the floppy markers go for a Burton, not really a big surprise there. You see Mike Comber in the white and red car having a good run here. He enters this second meeting of the season down in 11th place in the points, so he's looking to try and make some further progress as we make their way now towards the most iconic piece of tarmac on the circuit, one of the most iconic pieces of tarmac in the country, the mountain and the Hall Bends. This is a really demanding part of the circuit. It's single file through here. It's almost impossible to overtake. A few drivers further back though are chancing their arm to move up the inside towards the mountain, but everyone gets through there in more or less one piece, and then down through the Hall Bends they fling it right, left and then right again, and then out towards the final corner, and it is going to be the pole sitter Rob Boston who is holding on to the race lead here. He got the start, he got his nose in front, he held on for the first half a lap, and he's now just starting to possibly pull a little bit of a gap. The top 5 cars pretty much all together. Colin Bysouth we're on board with now in the number 88 car, started down in 20th position, but he's managed to pick himself up a few places already. Very high speed run down the pit straight in towards turn 1, clobbers the curb, try not to run too wide on the exit of the car, constantly moving around, and you can see that you're very rarely going in a straight line, and you're almost never flat. It's such an undulating circuit. He maybe got a bit of a tag in the tail there as we went out onto the Park Straight, which is anything but straight. The best overtaking opportunity at the end of it, and we can see there a good move being made by Liam Murphy up the inside of Mike Comber there, hard on the brakes. The inside lane should prevail, and indeed it does. Carl Garnett there, the orange and grey number 19 machine, makes his way through shot. He is running right in the thick of that midfield battle. Overcast conditions here this afternoon at Cadwell Park, but it is staying dry for the time being. They plummet their way down the hill, and Brian Chandler runs a little bit wide over the curb. Now, you can do that once and you'll get a warning for exceeding the track limits. If you keep doing it though, then there is a chance that you'll get seconds added on to the end of your race. 5 seconds at first, that can go up and up, but eventually if you keep on exceeding the track limits you will be excluded from the race. They need to try and keep it on the black stuff. On anything green though, and you do run the risk of incurring a track limits penalty. More floppy markers getting knocked out down at the bottom of the mountain. It's been a rather safe and sensible start to the race, with the exception of that little first corner incident between Rick Styron and Steve Roberts. Everyone else minding their P's and Q's fairly nicely. Mike Comber there trying to find a way back ahead of Liam Murphy. The top 2 definitely getting away, and it seems like the battle is really developing nicely at the sharp end of the field at least, is the one for third place. Jack Harding, who started in that third place, is holding on just about from Tom Roach, but Tom, who's 4th place in the standings entering this second meeting of the year, wants to try and get himself into a top 3 position if at all possible. It is all about consistency this season, with every single meeting being a triple header, so 3 races at every circuit that we visit. There are more races this year, therefore more points on offer, and it's really important important that you score as highly as possible every time you're out on track. Gary Townsend there makes his way up the Park straight, and hard on the brakes at the top of it. Liam Murphy, having got past Mike Comber, not really been able to escape, has he? Back on board with Colin Bysouth here, up towards the mountain he goes, getting some great on-board footage as he clobbers the curves. You can see it's such an all-action circuit, Cadwell Park. You never get a moment's rest, and this is the most technically demanding part of the circuit through the whole bends. You can see the road continues to undulate through here as well. Flapping air freshener doesn't seem to be distracting him too much, does it? Hanging down from the windscreen. Shows you the G-forces though that are acting upon the car, and therefore also the driver. A 20-minute race round here will feel like you've run a marathon. Now this is the battle for the race lead, and we've seen a little, or second place I should say, because Rob Boston's escaped out in front. We've had a bit of shuffling around there and a bit of damage there to the front of Liam Murphy's car, so something has happened between he and Mike Comber, because there, the white red number 58 car, Mike Comber has dropped down the order. It looks as though the exhaust is hanging down from the back of his car, so front end damage to Liam Murphy's car, rear end damage to Mike Comber's. Put two and two together and draw your own conclusions, but we'd imagine they may have come a bit close for comfort at some point around the lap. But yes, Rob Boston having now escaped out at the head of the field. The battle well and truly on for second. Battles all the way down the order. This is the number 76 car heading through our picture. Richard Wickham, the grey machine. Started down in 13th place, and now he is under all sorts of pressure as we make our way up to the top of the hill. He's defending the inside line. Mike Comber goes to the outside line. We've got the 66 machine there also doing battle with them. That is Sam Tatler, who started 17th, so Sam's made some nice forward progress as well. We say it was hard to overtake here at Cadwell Park, so if you can get a good start on the first lap, then that will certainly help your cause. Down into the gooseneck, and Mike Comber has a little look at the inside of Sam Tatler, and he prizes the door open. He gets eased up over the curb though, and to try and avoid making contact with Sam, he got a little bit squirrely over the curb, and I doubt that he was able to make the move stick in the end. Liam Murphy's wounded car continues on its way. It shouldn't be slowing him down too much through the twisty stuff, but in a straight line, that bonnet being buckled up like that will not be helping aerodynamics. Straight line speed therefore may be compromised slightly, and that could open up the door for Jonathan Greensmith in that number 2 car behind him to maybe try and make a move at the end of the Park straight. Jonathan's certainly pushing onwards, isn't he? He was managed to get his first race victories in the championship last season, and Mike Comber did get past Sam Tatler in the end, and there's a nice battle. Carl Garnett in the number 19 car trying to find a way past Nick Dunn, the white number 17. Wherever you look in the field of Mazda MX-5 SuperCup races, there is something going on. The last lap board is shown though, so all of these battles have to be resumed sooner rather than later. Rob Boston, there he is, looking very good for the race victory, but what's going on for second place? I'd be interested to see that, because it was all getting rather dicey the last time we saw it. There definitely been some sort of shuffling around. Tom Roach, I think, had made some progress, but none of this particularly concerns Rob Boston, who with this result is about to move into the championship lead. He arrived here, remember, just 1 point behind Jack Harding. This has been the perfect start to his weekend in the northeast. Is now in half a lap away from that first race victory of the weekend. Welcome return to Rob to Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. He turns his way up through the mountain. You can see that he's really taking it quite easy on this final lap of the race, not wanting to push the car all that hard, making sure that he doesn't throw it all away with half a lap to go. Rob Boston racing car heads through the Hall Bends for the final time. Just 2 more corners to go, and then he will see the checkered flag, and Rob Boston is going to start off his weekend here at Cadwell Park in perfect fashion. He will take the race victory, and with it the championship lead. Race 1 at Cadwell Park goes to Rob Boston by a country mile. He's going to finish this race nearly 10 seconds ahead of Luke Herbert, who just about hangs on to second place. Jack Harding is back into third ahead of a slightly war-wounded Tom Roach. He just about hangs on to fourth, and Ben Short in 5th place. Then to Brian Chandler in 6th. 7th place will go the way of Johnny Greensmith, so he didn't get past Liam Murphy in the end on the final lap. Liam is down to 8th. 9th place for Richard Wickham. 10th for Mike Comber, and then Sam Tatler, Nick Dunn and Carl Garnett all close in line behind him. By the way, Rick Styron and Steve Roberts, who went off on that first lap, they pulled in to retire, so they are non-finishers. So too was James Blake Morgan, so a few heavy hitters in trouble. Rob Boston, though, he was in no trouble at all. The 12 laps were completed in perfect fashion for him. He wins by 9.5 seconds over Luke Herbert, Jack Harding, Tom Roach, and Ben Short rounds out the top 5. Outside the top 10, a couple to point out. Well, Sam Tatler, we documented his progress to 11th place. Simon Orange there with a decent result in 15th. Gary Townsend down in 21st. Not sure what happened to him, and confirmation there that Rick Styron Marin, James Blake Baldwin, Steve Roberts and Richard Breland are all non-finishers. They will be in the B race later on.
Spectacular first race at Cadwell Park, and Rob Boston emerges at the top of the pack. Not a bad day's work, Rob.
No, that went exactly according to plan. Doesn't always, does it, in racing? But yeah, got my head down at the start, made the break on the first lap, kept the gap throughout, just pulling away, and yeah, took it easy on the tyres at the end of the race. So yeah, it ticked all the boxes there. Very, very happy with the car, happy with the performance. Yeah, great.
An exciting encounter for our man in second position after race one, Luke Herbert. That was pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good qualifying for me. You know, qualifying's usually my weak point. But to put it on second, you know, I knew I might have the fight for the win. But then to see Rob's time 6 tenths quicker than me in qualifying, you know, I knew it was going to be hard. And then on the second lap, I was sort of keeping with Rob, made a mistake, missed a gear, and then everyone was on me. So then all I could do is go into defend mode to hold second place, and that's what I did. Just sat on the white line all the way around.
Well, social media is quite awash here in the championship. We've got some kind of live video going on at the same time as we're speaking to Jack Harding. Jack, not a bad first race here at Cadwell. That was pretty good going, wasn't it?
Yeah, not too bad really. Qualifying went okay. I think we could have probably gone a bit stronger in the race if we'd have got past Luke. I think we could have gone with Rob. So hopefully the aim today is to just get past Luke and then try and go with Rob and give him a bit of a fight for the win.
Welcome back to Cadwell Park, where race 1B is about to get underway here for the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. These are the 6 drivers taking part in this one. Jim Hart and John Stack make up row 1, with David Willoughby and George Grant on the second row, Andy Coombs and Duncan Harris on row 3. Well, as we saw last time out at Brands Hatch, the oversubscribed grid means that the B races get tagged onto the front of one of the B races for the Mark 1 cars as well. But it's the Mark 3s we're focusing on, and right now we're focusing on a great start for George Grant, but also a good start for David Willoughby. They both get themselves alongside the white car, number 27 of Jim Hart, who's going to arrive at Coppice first. It's just about George Grant with a brilliant move around the outside. A bit too wide there, though, has gone Jim Hart through Charlie's. He gets muscled right down in amongst some of the Mark 1 traffic. So it's George Grant that leads the way. David Willoughby in second place. There in third position is front row sitter John Stack, and fourth place then for the 26 car of Duncan Harris. Jim Hart some way down the order, so too Andy Coombs appears to have been held up at the start of the race, the other runner within this field. Leaders, though, making their way down through the gooseneck in towards Mansfield. Now, the weather has turned slightly for this B race. There's just a little bit of drizzle, a little bit of moisture in the air. You can see there George Grant struggling a bit for traction out of Mansfield corner. Will that give David Willoughby an opportunity perhaps to have a go on the run towards Mansfield? He's looking towards the inside, snatches a break and just about manages to back out of the move before we make contact. So it will be George Grant that leads over the mountain for the first time. David Willoughby very much so in the early stages, though, taking the fight to George. Of course, George, as the race leader, is the guinea pig. Every time he arrives at a corner and the weather conditions continue to change over the course of the 20-minute race, he is going to be the man who is exploring exactly how much or indeed how little grip there is, whereas David Willoughby can gauge that from watching George in front of him. So often being in the race lead in this sort of situation isn't always such a big advantage. George, though, is starting now to assert his authority slightly. Flashes past towards the first corner, and David Willoughby in second. Third place John Stack, don't count him out of this one. They're making his first appearance in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. Out onto the back straight we go towards the right-hander at Park Corner, one of the better overtaking opportunities on the Cadwell Park circuit. Towards the braking zone, George Grant definitely starting to ease away now. David Willoughby possibly about to start coming under pressure from John Stack in third place. Ooh, David gets very sideways. It's a bit slippery at that part of the circuit. You can see he's flipped the windscreen wipers on now. And that's John Stack. John Stack has spun away from third place. So I told you it was getting slippery up there. There is the visual proof of it. So John Stack spins away third place. We'll have to wait and see where he rejoins. Remember, the most important thing within these B races is that you finish within the top 5, because the top 5 finishes from race 1B get tagged onto the back of the A race for race 2, and simultaneously the bottom 5 finishers, or perhaps the first 5 non-finishers from race 1A, will be demoted into the B race for the second race of the weekend later on. The importance of that being that you can only score maximum points for a race win in the A races. If you win a B race, then you'll only score points for about 27th or 28th or so, because they merge the 2 results together with the A cars ahead of the B cars. So it's really important, if you're going to try and build a championship campaign, that you're in the the A races as often as possible. Of course, you have 3 drop scores, which can help you out a little bit, but rather not have to rely on those really. So leader George Grant back out of Barn Corner towards Coppice for the 3rd time of asking, and David Willoughby, the gap between the two of them really seems to be ebbing and flowing slightly here, doesn't it? At certain parts of the circuit it seems like George Grant's a little bit quicker, but maybe out towards Chris Curve and the Gooseneck and Mansfield, that seems to be where David Willoughby is able to close in ever so slightly. Back down the Park Straight they go, through the dip, the compression at the bottom, then climb uphill. Feels like climbing a mountain on the run towards Park Corner. Heavily on the brakes. Clapham North, the sponsor of George Grant's car, that's because that's his company. He and the Clapham North company are main sponsors of the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup in 2017. Good to see that car at the front of the race, albeit a B race, but the last time George raced here at Cadwell Park he had a pretty nasty shunt, so understandably it's taking him a little bit of time perhaps just to get the confidence levels back, but he certainly seems to be getting confident in this race now. He's asserting his authority, he's pulling away ever further now from David Willoughby in 2nd position. Towards the mountain we go again, the sun actually now starting to break through the clouds, so hopefully we've seen the last of the drizzle. Over the top of the hill we go, towards the Hall Bends. Again, through this part of the circuit, David Willoughby may be coming back at him, so it's going to be a fascinating race this. You would imagine it's going to run right to the flag. The B race is often just as hotly contested as the A races, to be honest, and this one's certainly going to be one of the closer ones we've seen in recent times. Back down through Barn, 3rd lap about to be completed, and George Grant continuing on his merry way as the race leader. So towards Park Corner then, David Willoughby not close enough here to make the move, but he's very much stuck with George Grant through the middle portion of the race. Now we're starting to move into the 2nd half, and he's maybe starting to make his presence ever more known on board with George Grant. Great view here of the never-ending right-hander at Chris Curve, which suddenly tightens into the gooseneck just here, then fling it to the left. The car goes light over the crest, don't run too wide. Oh, bit of a mistake there from George Grant. Is Willoughby going to be able to get close enough to attack it towards Mansfield? I think he probably was. George Grant went in defensive, but then runs out wide on the exit of the corner. How much has that compromised the exit speed? We've seen Willoughby's been quick off that corner in the past. Towards the mountain we go. He's keeping a gap on the inside because there is David Willoughby and he is through into the race lead. So we really do have a race on our hands now. Anybody who expected George Grant to pull away and extend the margin at the head of the field has just been proven wrong. They're also about to get into some of the traffic now. Some of the Mark 1 cars about to go a lap down. So up through the Hall Bends we go again, into the right-hander at the hairpin. Jim Hart, by the way, is now into 3rd place after John Stack's earlier moment and another moment on the grass there for George Grant. And the reason he's pushing on so hard is that you can see already David Willoughby is pulling away. So David Willoughby, who already has shown he's had impressive pace in this race, is continuing that form now. He's in the lead. George Grant trying maybe to use some of the back markers to his advantage. They're about to catch a slower runner through Coppice Corner and in towards Charlie's. That's not a good part of the circuit to catch a slower car, and it does hold them both up slightly. Well, David Willoughby now really starting to pull away from the 2nd place man George Grant. They're both actually being reeled in slightly by Jim Hart in 3rd place, but he's quite some way back. Oh, Willoughby 2 wheels out onto the dirt there. He's went over the mountain. That's not a good place to be off the track, and he loses it. Oh, David Willoughby throws away the race lead. It's such a tricky part of the course, that mountain section, and he just took a bit too much speed through the right-hander, got 2 wheels on the dirt, and then as the car got light over the crest, he couldn't control it, and he spun away what was looking like far from a certain race victory, but he certainly had a really good shot at it. Now let's hope he can rejoin still within the top 5 finishers and get a promotion spot into the next race. I think he's been able to. We're about to go on to the final lap anyway, so I think David Willoughby has indeed been able to rejoin the track in, I reckon, about 3rd place, because it will now of course be George Grant that leads the way, Jim Hart in 2nd, and David Willoughby I think was able to rejoin a rather lowly 3rd. So a race that George Grant led in the early going, but then looked to have handed over to David Willoughby midway through, has now fallen back into his lap. Down towards Barn Corner for the final time comes the Clapham North car, and George Grant is about to take a race victory here at Cadwell Park. Race 1B will go the way of the series sponsor. George Grant takes the checkered flag, and he is rather pleased with that one, I think. Congratulations to George, a great race victory. 2nd place will go the way of Jim Hart, and I'm fairly certain we'll find out in a moment or two when we get the official results that David Willoughby was able to rejoin in 3rd. Well, there is confirmation of the result. George Grant winning in the end by over 19 seconds from Jim Hart, who had a moment late on. He still finishes second, though. Willoughby third, John Stack fourth, and Duncan Harris in fifth will be the last to get promoted to the A race.
Your first win of the year as well, George. Fantastic work.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, what can one say? A brilliant circuit. Just made a fantastic start from fourth position, and just really didn't look back. I mean, I had a few hairy moments, as you do at Cadwell, but all in all, absolutely fantastic.
So we're getting ready for the second race in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, but as you can see behind me, we've got oil down on the mountain. I have a feeling there might be some fireworks to come in this race. Andy, all yours, mate.
Well, thank you very much, Jake. There are always fireworks in the MX-5 SuperCup, aren't there? Well, here is how the grid lines up. Rob Boston and Luke Herbert on row 1, because this grid is based upon the results from the previous race. So Jack Harding and Tom Roach are on row 2, Ben Short and Brian Chandler on the third row, with Johnny Greensmith and Liam Murphy on row 4. Richard Wickland and Mike Comber round out the top 10. Then it's Sam Tatler, Nick Dunn, Carl Garnett, Colin Bysouth, Simon Orange and Aidan Hills making up the 8th row of the grid. Then it's Alec Livesley and Simon Fleet, Jake Bailey and Nathan Bell, Gary Townsend and David Henderson on the 11th row. Row 12 for Alex King, and then our 1B race winner George Grant, followed by the other 4 drivers who were promoted with him: Jim Hart, David Willoughby, John Stack and Duncan Harris. So this is going to be a really interesting race. Another 20 minutes of action coming your way. The white car on pole position, our race 1 winner Rob Boston, Luke Herbert alongside him in the blue machine. Watch for Tom Roach and Jack Harding, though they lost touch. Well, they all lost touch really with Rob Boston in race 1, didn't they? They'll be keen to stay with him this time. Red lights go out. We're away and racing for the second time this weekend at Cadwell Park. Who gets the best start from the front row of the grid? It's a bit more even this time. Luke Herbert taking the fight to Rob Boston on the run towards the first corner, but it's Rob who will hang on to the race lead. So Boston from Herbert from side by side for third between Roach and Jack Harding. Bollard's getting kicked up in the background, but I think everyone is safely through the first corner. Out through Charlie's now and onto the Park Straight for the first time of asking. Yes, Roach came through in third, and up into fourth position has come Brian Chandler, as off heavily into the tyre wall goes Richard Wickland. That was a big shunt at Charlie's corner. I didn't see how he got fired out of the pack, but he did, and he ended up in the tyre wall pretty substantially. That will be his race, I would imagine, well and truly run. Race leaders, though, are up at the top of the hill. I was about to say that Brian Chandler's got himself ahead of Jack Harding, so Harding's actually dropped down into 5th position, so not a good start this time around for the number 43 machine. But Jack, who very much is looking to try and put together a championship campaign this year, we're looking to move forward. There is Richard Wickland. That is the best news we could have seen, though, that he is absolutely okay. He's out of the car, but the car looking very second hand indeed. Right then, leaders absolutely as one as we descend on the mountain, and a mistake there for Rob Boston. Rob Boston runs wide and he hands the race leader straight over to Luke Herbert, and it looked as though Tom Roach was trying to take advantage and go through as well. Did he manage to make that one stick? No. Roach has actually lost out to Brian Chandler, so it was all going on then over the mountain, but Luke Herbert takes over the race lead. A very rare mistake from Rob Boston. All Roach is up the inside of Brian Chandler into the hairpin. That all got very robust indeed. Roach has gone through into third. Chandler slots back into line in fourth. It's Jack Harding in fifth. Brilliant racing we're seeing here in the early going. Race 1 was fairly well behaved, wasn't it, and fairly pedestrian. This one, though, all action, as Jake suggested it might be at the start of the race. Right then, down towards turn 1, and the cars are slowing because we have, for the first time this season in the MX-5 SuperCup, a Code 60, which is there to replace a safety car. Hello and welcome back to Cadwell Park. Green flags are flying once more in race 2A for the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup after a Code 60 period has been out for most of the middle portion of the race to recover Richard Wickland's stricken car. Race leaders down through the Hall Bends, then back to full racing speed, and it is Luke Herbert in the blue car that leads the way. Rob Boston is in second place, having thrown away the race lead. There is cement dust down at the mountain, which Jake Sanson mentioned pre-race might catch a couple of them out. Well, it absolutely did catch Rob Boston out, and he's now trying to get that lead back that he gave up just before the Code 60 came out. He's well and truly in the wheel tracks of race leader Luke Herbert. Pulls to the outside line down towards turn 1. Now you can go around the outside here because it gives you the inside line, but Charlie's, they almost lean on each other. What a move that was from Rob Boston, right around the outside at one of the fastest corners on the circuit, and he's back into the race lead. But He is now the man punching the hole in the air and giving the toe to the cars behind him. Luke Herbert is pushing him down the park straight, up and over the hill towards Park Corner they go. Boston will have to defend the inside line. Herbert, though, doesn't really want to go out wide because Tom Roach and Brian Chandler and, well, everybody else really are there in a long line trying to take advantage and get past him. So in the end, they stay in the same sort of order through the double apex right-hander in towards Chris Curve. On board with Brian Chandler running in 4th position. That's Jack Harding behind us in 5th. Then Johnny Greensmith, Liam Murphy and Mike Comber also inside the top 10 in this race. You get a real sense there for what a roller coaster ride it is down through the gooseneck and in towards Mansfield Corner. Another good overtaking opportunity down here, but no one ducking out of line this time around. And now we're on to that cement dust, which you can see being kicked up there by Brian Chandler on the run in towards the mountain. Rob Boston will be fairly cautious, I'd imagine, as he turns in towards this already very tricky part of the circuit. Pollards once more are getting an absolute beating in this race as they make their way through that part of the track and in towards the Hall Bends. So after a very frenetic start to the race, yes, a slippery surface flags out. I think Rob Boston's fully aware that it's a slippery surface through that part of the track at the time being. But yes, after a very hectic opening lap, the Code 60 has just calmed everybody down a little bit, I think now. Everyone's settling into line, settling into a rhythm. And now they need to try and work their way through as efficiently as possible. So on to the final lap of the race we go, in fact. So the Code 60 really was out for a long time. It's taken up the bulk of the race. Rob Boston is looking good for a double race victory here at Cadwell Park. Luke Herbert is a lot closer this time around, though, than he was in race 1, thanks in part to the Code 60, but also because he's absolutely taken the fight to the race leader this time around. Onto the park straight, up towards Park Corner we go. He's in the tow, he's closing in. There are still opportunities here for Luke Herbert to find a way through. He's not given up hope of a race victory just yet. Onto the brakes into Park. Well, that was one of his chances gone, but he's closer now than he was at the start of the lap. I reckon down in towards Mansfield this time around, if he gets a good run through Chris Curve, through the gooseneck, Rob Boston's going to have to defend, I think, on the inside line on the drop down the hill. Let's find out. Is Luke Herbert close enough? I suspect not, but Boston will have to be very late on the brakes here into the left-hander. Back out of it they go, inch perfect for the two of them on the run now towards the mountain, and really overtaking opportunities few and far between through the second half of the lap here at Cadwell Park, because it's all pretty much just single file through the mountain and the Hall Bends. The hairpin is a last-ditch opportunity perhaps for Luke to have a go, but I don't really think he's going to be close enough. Rob Boston's put together a nice second half of the race, he's pulled a decent gap, and I think that Rob is more than likely going to come home a double race winner. Through the Hall Bends we go, down towards the hairpin for the final time, and under no real pressure now. It looks as though Luke Herbert's good for second place. Tom Roach in 3rd position as well. Through the right-hander at Barn we go, and onto the start-finish line. And well, after a little bit more complication in that one with all of the early battling, it is going to be a double race victory at Cadwell Park for Rob Boston. Rob Boston takes the checkered flag. 2nd place for Luke Herbert, 3rd for Tom Roach. Brian Chandler just hangs on to 4th ahead of Jack Harding. Johnny Greensmith, Liam Murphy, Mike Comber, Carl Garnett and Sam Tatler will round out the top 10. The rest of the field streaming through. Here is confirmation of your result. It's a great win for Rob Boston. Wins in the end by just over a second from Luke Herbert in 2nd place, then Roach, Chandler and Harding, as I mentioned, rounding out the top 5. Some more valuable championship points for those. Colin Bysouth is 11th, then Nick Dunn, Aidan Hills, Jake Bailey and Gary Townsend rounds out the top 15. Further back for some of the drivers who were promoted from the B race. Well, George Grant finishes 21st, so he will stay in Group A. It'll be Jim Hart, John Stack, Duncan Harris, Ben Short and Richard Wicklin, who are 2 non-finishers, will also be demoted.
Great scenes on the podium here after a second race in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. And Rob Boston, you've done it again. Fantastic job.
Yeah, it didn't go to plan like yesterday. There was cement down on the track, and obviously being the first one there, I wasn't quite sure how much to push it, and yeah, I pushed it too much. Almost came off, to be honest with you, as I first hit the cement dust. Luke went past, almost let Tom Roche past as well. But yeah, then it went Code 60. So we spent a majority of the race like eyes on stalks, looking at the marshal's post, waiting to see when it's going to go green. So yeah, it's quite stressful times.
It's the man who almost got you, Luke Herbert, in 2nd place. That was pretty stressful going, but it looked as if it was very nearly on at one point.
Yeah, I mean, after Rob went off at the bottom of the mountain, I got into the lead. I thought, this is it now, because he started battling. I pulled like a 6-car length gap, and my aim was to do what Rob did yesterday and just get my head down and go. And then you see these purple flags come out, and you think, well, that whole effort's wasted. But I said the opportunity to win, but Rob got a run of me out the last corner, got the toe, got around the outside, and that was it. Just had to hold on for second then, but really pleased with second. After the pace we had on Friday, I would never expect to be on the podium, so it was really good.
Well, Tom Roach, good to see you back on the rostrum again, and that was a pretty scary one at times.
Yeah, it was a good race. It's a shame so much of it was under code 60, but yeah, you spend the whole time just staring at Marshall. Is it going to go green? Is it going to go green? And almost had an opportunity to get past Rob when he made a mistake at the mountain, but then after that, Rob's on fire this weekend. I mean, he did an awesome move on Luke to get the lead, and I think everyone's kind of just hanging on to him, really.
Time to get cracking for the B race in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup Championship, second race of the weekend. Steve Dolman will line up from the front of the grid, and it should be a pretty exciting charge for him as he tries to get a victory here at Cadwell Park. Right behind him on the grid is going to be a man playing catch-up for the rest of the weekend, basically. Rick Styron was up in the top 6 in qualifying. Now he starts second in the B race, and this is going to be quite an interesting one, to be fair, Rick. Lots of good battles ahead, potentially.
Yeah, you've got two really quality drivers behind me. You've got James Blake Baldwin, last year's champion, Steve Roberts, 3 times BMW champion. So even in the B final, you find competition everywhere in this Super Cup.
And there's a good chance that if all 3 of you are on the podium, you'll be trying to fight your way through the field in the final race of the day as well. So you guys are the ones to watch.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see. Let's get stuck in.
Okay, whistle's gone, as we just heard. James Blake Baldwin, reigning champion, having to start from 3rd in this one as well. So this one's going to be action-packed.
I tend to agree with you there, Jake. Thank you very much. Here's how they line up. Then Steve Dolman, as we heard, is on pole position with Rick Styron alongside him. James Blake Baldwin, Steve Roberts, row 2, Richard Breland and Andy Coombs on the 3rd row of the grid. Remember, top 5 get promoted back into Group A for the 3rd and final race of the weekend. So it's really important for, in particular, James, Steve and Richard to try and get themselves into that all-important top 5. Once more, the Mark 1 cars line up behind, but it's the top 6 cars that we're interested in as the red lights go out now. Away we go. Who makes the best start from the front row of the grid? Rick Styron's away well. Looks like he's going to try and crowd across to the inside and get in front of Steve Dolman before turn 1, which he does. James Blake Baldwin is the blue and yellow striped car coming alongside now for 2nd place, and he goes through as well. So it's Styron from Blake Baldwin, the top 2. Here comes the 56 car of Steve Roberts also up the inside, so the 3 favourites for the race have already got themselves into the top 3 positions, but the top 2 could not be much closer together, could they? Rick Styron and James Blake Baldwin. James really attacking on the run now towards Park Corner for the first time. Is Rick going to defend the inside line, or is James going to find a route through perhaps? Onto the brakes we go. Now, there is a gap on the inside, but Rick Styron is late enough on the brakes to hang on to the race lead. Good move further back. That was Richard Breland going up the inside of Steve Dolman, so in less than half a lap, Steve's already managed to go from pole position within race 2B, all the way down to 5th, but he's still ahead of Andy Coombs in the orange number 8 car. Down through the gooseneck we go. Steve Roberts way wide over the dirt. That was a very scary moment. He could so easily have lost control of the car and spun across into the barriers then, and off wide goes Rick Styron. Rick Styron throws away the race lead down at Mansfield Corner, and he loses 1, 2, 3 positions, nearly 4, because Steve Dolman closes in as well, and that means that Rick Styron's opportunities possibly for a race win have just gone for a burden. Well, he'll be kicking himself for that one. He's still inside the top 5 though, that's the main thing, so as long as he finishes top 5 he'll still be in race 3A. But he'd have loved to have done it with a race win, but would have been his first win of the season. So up towards the hall bench we go. There's Andy Coombs, look, the orange number 8 car, mired amongst some of the Mark 1 runners. Down towards Barn Corner we go for the first time, and well, a dramatic opening lap. The first B race, if you remember, was very dramatic, wasn't it, in the battle between George Grant and David Willoughby, both of whom got promoted into race 2A and managed to stay outside of the relegation zone, so they've been able to move through into race 3A as well. Leaders though on the final lap of the race make their way through the mountain part of the circuit, and after a dramatic start to the race, not much has changed since really. James Blake Baldwin is holding on to a gap of just over 1 second between himself and Steve Roberts in second. Rick Styron has moved his way back into 3rd, so he found a way back ahead of Steve Dolman and Richard Breland, and is looking good for at least a podium finish. Back marking car, one of the Glendini cars in front, one of the Mark 1 runners, the team run by Tom Roach, of course, who we saw out in the 2A races earlier on. But it's going to be James Blake Baldwin who gets his first race win of the year, not quite the way he would have planned to do it in a B race, but at least he gets through into race 3A with a checkered flag in race 2B. James Blake Baldwin takes the race victory. Second place will go the way of Steve Roberts, third for Rick Styron, fourth Richard Breland, fifth Steve Dolman. Andy Coombs in the end was a non-finisher, so he will stay within the B class for race number 3.
James Blake Baldwin, that's a win to get you back into position again where you were before in the A group. So satisfying?
Yeah, no, it was actually. A couple of guys are quick. So yeah, no, that wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be at all. They were on my tail and I had to defend basically all the way through the 20-minute race. But yeah, no, we're back onto the A group now, so see how it goes.
Well, Ray Worley's charge, Jim Hart is getting himself ready to go from pole position in the B group for the Super Cup race. But can he stay at the front of the field? Seems easy at Cadwell, but not when you've got a stray pack of dogs chasing you down.
Well, we said at the start of the programme that it's difficult to overtake here at Cadwell Park, but we saw lots of overtaking in the previous B race, so I've got high hopes for this one as well. Jim Hart and John Stack on row 1, Duncan Harris and Ben Short row 2. Richard Wickland, one to really watch though. Remember, he had his big accident in race 2A. They've got the car fixed, he's back out there, and he will be definitely looking for a race victory. Don't count out Ben Short as well though. He's quick and will be keen to round out his season in the best possible fashion. So here we go then, ready to go racing in race number 3B, but a creeping there from Jim Hart from the outside of row number 1. Lights go out now and away we go, and the rush towards the first corner at Coppice gets underway. Who makes the best start? It's going to be John Stack by the looks of it in car number 93, who makes his way in towards turn 1 first. Paul Sheard racing car. Yep, gets his way through in one piece. Here comes around the outside there. That was a bit of a challenge there for Ben Short in the black and orange car, trying to get the lead away on the run through into Charlie's corner. It didn't work on the way in. Can he get a run on the exit? Yes, he can. Gets alongside John Stack for the race lead down the hill and towards Park Corner. He should have that one made before they even hit the brakes. Battle on for third as well there between Jim Hart and the man I mentioned as a potential favourite for the race victory, Richard Wickland. Car looks as good as new, doesn't it? And he's now tried to move it through into a podium place. Think he probably made that one stick, didn't he? Let's see as they come through the right-hander at Chris Curve. Yes, through he goes. So Richard Wickland to third. John Stack there on screen is running in second place at the moment. Out of the gooseneck, race leader already. Really starting to get away though is Ben Short. All sorts of stuff going on behind. That was Duncan Harris, I think, running a little bit wide over the grass. But the race leader Ben Short really pulling away. Here comes Richard Wickland though into second place now at the inside of John Stack. Nice move on the brakes into the mountain. He's clearly got good confidence in that car, despite the fact that the last time he was in it, he was heading at high speed towards the tyre wall at Charlie's corner, but it hasn't fazed Richard Wickland. And Richard, who had some really good results throughout the second half of last season, came into this weekend 7th in points, but this weekend will have really dented his championship hopes. Well, into the final lap now, and not much has changed. Certainly Ben Short has been able to pull out a very comfortable margin. He's going to take the checkered flag, we reckon, by about 16 seconds. So we haven't missed much through the middle portion of the race. Ben Short, though, really is looking in fine form here in race 3B. Unfortunately, it's the last B race of the weekend, so there is no promotion to the A race after this one. But it's still going to be some worthy points for victory in this race. But more importantly, a checkered flag for Ben Short, who wins race 3B at Cadwell Park. And he's pretty chuffed with that one, I think. The gap back to Richard Wickland is a sizable one. We'll see the official results now. Yes, 16 seconds the gap between Short and Wickland in second. Jim Hart was third. John Stack got demoted to fourth late on, with Duncan Harris fifth and Andy Coombs a non-finisher.
Just a few seconds to go then before the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup cars are released for their third and final encounter. And everywhere you look in this paddock, there is talent in all four corners. There is at least a dozen drivers who have already been champions, who could be champion in 2017 in this category. And all of them are going to be unleashed on the same bit of track at the same time. Let's slip the dogs of war.
Well, it's certainly going to be a competitive season, isn't it, I think, in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. We documented that last time out at the start of the season. Here's how they line up for this final race of the weekend. Then Rob Boston and Luke Herbert, the two pace setters this weekend on the front row. Tom Roach and Brian Chandler, row 2, ahead of Jack Harding, Johnny Greensmith, Liam Murphy and Mike Comber on row 4. Row 5 for Carl Garnett and Sam Tatler. Then it's Colin Bysouth, Nick Dunn, Aidan Hills, Jake Bailey, Gary Townsend down in 15th place, one to watch perhaps in the yellow 223 car alongside Alec Livesley on row 8. Row 9 for Nathan Bell and David Henderson. Row 10 Alex King and Simon Fleet. Row 11 for the championship sponsor George Grant and Simon Orange, with David Willoughby and James Blake Baldwin definitely one to watch for, the reigning champion. So too are Steve Roberts and Rick Styron, having graduated with James from the B race earlier on, with Richard Breland and Steve Dolman on the back row. So here we go then, the final race of the weekend. Can Rob Boston make this a hat-trick of race victories? Luke Herbert will have something to say about that. So too, though, will the majority of the field. It was all a lot closer in race 2 as well. And this is the final race of the weekend, so expect sparks to fly. Away we go. Good launch from both front row men by the looks of it, but with the inside line, is Rob Boston going to prevail again? I think he is, with Luke Herbert slotting through into second place. Roach versus Chandler then for third. They're side by side into the corner. Bit of wheel banging between the two of them, and Chandler gets edged out wide. That brings Jack Harding alongside him, but Jack is on the outside line for Charlie's. That's not really where you want to be. Mike Comber and Carl Garnett are side by side further back, but they're in the top 3. It's Boston, Herbert and Roach. Same top 3 as we had in race number 2. Oh, out wide over the grass for a few cars further back, but everyone is safely through. There, working his way through towards the back of the field. We caught a glimpse of the reigning champion James Blake Baldwin, leads up towards the top of the hill, and Luke Herbert looking to the outside there, Rob Boston, but it didn't quite work out as behind them Brian Chandler gets sideways, allows Johnny Greensmith up the inside, and maybe even Liam Murphy as well, and that's Carl Garnett, who is way wide, almost made the tyre wall there up at Park Corner, but he will rejoin, no damage, but right at the back of the field. So yes, Tom Roach did indeed go through into second place, and Rob Boston runs very wide through the gooseneck. It is then in 4th place Johnny Greensmith, 5th Liam Murphy, so Chandler lost 2 places down to 6th, and it's James Blake Baldwin, it's Jack Harding, next in line, so he too has lost ground at the start actually of all 3 races. So Harding starts letting him down slightly. His racecraft we know is brilliant, so he can work his way back up the order, but it's so tough to pass around here. So up through the mountain we go then. It is Boston from Roach, from Herbert, from Greensmith, from Murphy, the top 5, then Chandler, Harding and Comber next in line there. Mike Comber in the white and red car. Mike arrived here down in 12th place in the points, so he'll have worked his way I think in towards the top 10 by the end of the weekend. Through the hairpin, in towards Barn they go. And it is all just settling down slightly now, but you sense that race 3 of the weekend, it usually is the most exciting, and I think that's going to be the case here, with Tom Roach bearing down on Rob Boston out in front. Towards the left-hander at Coppice Corner, on board with Colin Bysouth. He's not far behind the Mike Comber machine, number 58. So inside the top 10 at the moment is Colin. Oh, someone's run wide in front of us, kicking up the dirt. Jack Harding gets up the inside of Brian Chandler, who it was who ran wide. Mike Comber goes through as well, and look at the momentum it loses Brian, because now Colin Bysouth closes in as well. Colin having a brilliant weekend here at Cadwell Park, gets himself alongside the former Mark 1 Series champion Brian Chandler. Can he make the move stick? He's got his car in front, but Chandler's later on the brakes. We can see that in the rear view mirror. Wheel to wheel through Park Corner. He's going to get shown the edge of the road, and Chandler goes back ahead. Now try and cut back up the inside through Chris Curve maybe. There just is not a gap. Brian Chandler defended that one nicely and just about gets his position back in line. It's been a scrappy start to the race though for Brian, and a few others too. Luke Herbert starting to fall back into the clutches now of Johnny Greensmith and Liam Murphy. They're about to do battle over 3rd place. That's allowing Rob Boston and Tom Roach to pull away at the head of the field. Jack Harding with Mike Comber still breathing down his neck further back as they head towards the mountain. Of course, they both now are ahead of Brian Chandler, but that little squabble has dropped them some way adrift of the podium fight. Towards the Hall Bends again. No overtaking really through here, and possibly you can make a move on the run down towards the hairpin. We saw Tom Roach dispatch of Brian Chandler down here in the previous race, didn't we? But this lot all keep it single file, minding their P's and Q's for the time being. With the effect of the slipstream in these cars, though, the run down the pit straight and down the park straight mean that they are the 2 best places to try and launch your attack. So Johnny Greensmith there, the grey and orange car, 4th position, sitting in the wheel tracks of Luke Herbert and trying to pick his moment. On board with Aidan Hills now as we make our way down the pit straight, and just takes a moment to relax his left arm before he goes on to another daunting lap of the Cadwell Park circuit through Coppice into Charlie's double apex right hander. There's a big crest in the middle of it. Look, and see some nice battling going on just in front of us, and both cars run out wide. So here is the opportunity for Sam Tatler. Gets himself first of all ahead of the number 66 machine. That was Sam Tatler. And I think he's going to pick up 2 places actually by the time they get to the end of the straight, which is where Johnny Greensmith, as I suggested might be the case, has made his move on Luke Herbert and moved through into 3rd place. On board with Simon Fleet now over the mountain and up towards the Hall Bends. He's running a little bit further down the order is Simon, but having a solid run nonetheless, running in about 15th place as he tries to work his way further up the order. That's Gary Townsend in the 223 car in front of us. Possibly David Henson, I think that is, who's running just in behind in the dark coloured car. Back onto the pit straight they go for the final time. Rob Boston is leading the way, but we are hearing and this is going to make a big difference to the result of the race. He's been given a 5-second time penalty. That is for exceeding the track limits once too often. If you do it once, you get given a warning, a black and white warning flag, saying that if you do it again, we'll start adding time to your race, and that's exactly what's happened to Rob. And so he, once those 5 seconds have been added on, will be demoted behind Tom Roach. So Tom Roach essentially is the race leader. Rob, I think, should just about, as long as he has a decent final lap, slot in ahead of this group of cars fighting for third place. Though we'll have to wait and see on the official results later on. But there is Rob Boston. A 5-second time penalty for him means that he is not actually the race leader. He's leading on the road, but in actual fact, in half a lap's time, it's likely to be Tom Roach who takes home the checkered flag. So an absolute disaster that is for Rob Boston. Up towards the mountain they go for the final time. There is Tom Roach, then your effective race leader further back in the green Blendini car. Through the left, through the right, up over the crest of the hill towards the Hall Bends. And Rob Boston really needs to get his head down here, because I reckon on corrected times he's at the moment about to slot in right in the middle of that fight for third place. So a good final lap should put him now ahead of those three on corrected times. Once the 5 seconds have been added on, we'll have to wait and see. But Rob Boston comes out of the final corner. He's going to see the checkered flag first, but he is not the race winner. The race victory instead in round number 6 of the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup goes to Tom Roach. Tom Roach victorious in race 3A. Here come the chasing pack, and let's see. Well, Roach wins it, and Boston just about, by about 0.3 of a second, hangs on to second place. Johnny Greensmith is third, then Luke Herbert, Liam Murphy, Jack Harding, Mike Comber, Brian Chandler, Aidan Hills and Jake Bailey round out the top 10. Steve Roberts worked his way into 11th place in the result, having started towards the back. Great racing from him, and a few retirements further down as well.
Come and join us, Tom. What a fantastic race, absolutely brilliant drive and incredibly close battling all the way through.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise really. It was great. The cars felt good all weekend, but it's such a small track that you kind of get, unless you get a good start and get away, it's difficult. So it was lovely to have the opportunity to chase down Rob, and I've never been so pleased to see a 5-second penalty board. I mean, gutted for Rob really. It would have been nice to actually properly race, and it was very tempting. But then I thought, well, I'm going off everywhere as well, so I better just chill out and just drive around and hopefully stay within 5 seconds.
You were the class act of the field, an absolutely magnificent weekend all round.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, superb weekend. Yeah, pretty much all went to plan. Admittedly did get a slight problem with braking second half of that race. Just something wrong with the brake proportion, I believe. But yeah, even so, yeah, won on the road. I was very happy. I don't know what the penalty's for. I believe it's probably track limits, to be honest. But you know, it was good weekend. I did everything I could.
Once again, you're back on the podium again.
Long time. It's been a long time to me. It's been a slow process. So I just need to sort my qualifying times out to get further up there from the start.
So yet another victory for Tom Roach, very nearly a clean sweep for Rob Boston, and John Greensmith among the podium runners for the first time in the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. So it looks as though the championship is just getting more and more intense. We'll see you next time for more rip-roaring racing.